Well, let's talk about Dynamite from this past week. I thought it was a very strong show with an excellent main event. An excellent main event and a big angle to close the show. It wasn't just like, oh, we got a great wrestling match. We actually got a big heel turn and a big angle to write Kenny Omega off television when it was all said and done. Swerve Strickland and Kenny Omega, they went one-on-one for the first time ever. And they had a killer match. Just a great match. And Swerve won the match. At one point, Swerve pulled referee Aubrey Edwards in the way of a V-trigger. And yet there are still people out there who don't believe that this man has fully turned heel. He pulled Aubrey Edwards in the path of a Kenny Omega V-trigger, and she was knocked unconscious. But he beats Kenny Omega. And still, for the people who don't think it was a full heel turn, that wasn't enough. He beat the piss out of Omega when the match was over. And evidently, when they went off the air, he continued the assault until the Young Bucks ran out to make the save. In case you were wondering, was this a heel turn or not? And the fans booed him. I mean, the fans treated it as such. So it was, a major angle. But the match itself, it's funny. We just came off the match with Tommaso Ciampa and Kyle Fletcher last week. And I said, that's the best TV match of the year so far. Well, now we have a new best TV match of the year so far, which is Kenny Omega against Swerve Strickland. So I love what they did there at the end of the show. Swerve looked in the camera at one point after he gave Omega a vertebreaker off the steps that he had moved over by the announce desk. He gave him a vertebreaker through the announce desk. And he looked dead in the camera and said, I needed this, right? He needed to find his edge again. But think about it. Like, when they had their promo on television the week before, and Swerve's calling himself, the most dangerous man in all of AEW, and Kenny laughed him off. Right? He looked this man dead in the face and basically said, "Now, the most dangerous man in AEW right now is Brody King," with a wink and a nod towards the chants that he gets everywhere he goes. But he basically laughed him off and said, "No, you're not." So Swerve went. He just went full throttle on this guy and just absolutely killed him to prove a point. And so now Kenny Omega is going to be off TV for a while, and the only question is for how long. Because it definitely felt like they're writing him off with the idea that he won't be at Revolution. That's not guaranteed. Now, we know that he's going to be in Japan the week of Revolution. He is committed to, I don't know what his role is, if he's like an MC or if he's playing in the tournament. I don't know exactly what his role is. There's some sort of Capcom is having a Capcom Cup event. And people are going to be playing, I think, Street Fighter 6. But he committed to this event a long time ago. I think like well over a year ago. And supposedly they're still trying to work it out that maybe he can, exit early and be back in time to get to Los Angeles for the show. But even if he can end up making an appearance, like he's clearly not going to be able to be booked in a match on that show. So I'm not expecting him back at least until Revolution, and he's likely not going to be in a match on that show. So that's why they had to do what they did. But I think heel Swerve is the best version of Swerve with that harder edge. I mean, maybe over time he ends up being a tweener, but this was a full-on fucking heel turn that we saw on Wednesday night. And it's interesting, and I'll talk about Hangman here in a second, but because you would think Hangman is certainly not going to be very happy about seeing Kenny Omega get killed by Swerve Strickland. Now, Hangman had a segment in the ring with MJF because we know Hangman is now number one contender for the AEW World title. That's going to be the match at Revolution. And they're in the ring together and they're cutting a promo on each other. And MJF is saying, I hate you. I hate you. And Hangman says, I'm going to really show you how serious I am about beating you for that championship at Revolution and how confident I am. He tells MJF that if I cannot beat you to take back the AEW World title, then I will never again challenge for the AEW World Championship. He didn't say so long as you're the champion. He said ever. I will never again challenge for the world title. And that didn't work out so well for Cody Rhodes the last time they tried a stipulation like this. He also was pitching the idea of it being a Texas death match. The fans were chanting Texas death. MJF said, give me a week to think over a stipulation, and if I agree to this, and he even said on social media, he said, we both pitch a stipulation. We both have to agree to the stipulation. Hangman has given his word that if we do, He will never challenge for the world title again. On Wednesday, we decide on the stipulation for our match. They talked about Texas Death so much that it feels like it needs to be something else, or it needs to be a combination of Texas Death and something else for them to, I mean, they're dragging it out for another week when, again, Hangman flat out demanded Texas Death on Wednesday. So there's going to be some other little, I don't know, hook or some kind of detour added here by MJF on Wednesday. But the stipulation that I'll never again challenge for the world title so long as I'm here in AEW. I'm not a fan of it. I understand why they would want to do it. It is a hook for the show. Because now you're going to have people thinking, fuck, I mean, MJF is losing the title. I mean, it's the only way. They got to put the belt on Hangman now. You know, he's one of the top names in the company. He's still relatively young. I'm sure he's still going to be there for many more years. Why would you box yourself into a position like this? Especially if he's going to lose, right? What do you do then? That there are ways around it. Now, the easiest would be if he loses. The easiest would be for him to just go back on his word at some point if they ever want to turn him heel again. The easier way around it, which did not exist when Cody Rhodes was still there, would be if he loses at Revolution, would be to have him win the Casino Gauntlet match at Wembley Stadium, which would guarantee him a shot at the AEW World title. It kind of reminds me of 93. Lex Luger went on to, they completely changed his whole gimmick, right? He went from the narcissist to the all-American hero. I mean, you talk about doing a 180 in terms of your character or your gimmick. And they put him on a fucking bus and they sent him around the country and they built everything up with the idea that this man's going to win that world title at the Palace of Auburn Hills at SummerSlam. He's going to beat Yokozuna. And he goes in there and he knocks Yokozuna unconscious out of the ring. And of course, Yokozuna's big as a fucking house. No one's lifting him up and putting him back in the ring. And he gets counted out. And this fucking idiot is jumping up and down and celebrating, and wrestlers come out and put him on their shoulders, and balloons and confetti are falling, and even young Solomonster is watching this going, boy, these people are fucking dumb. What the hell are you celebrating? You didn't win anything. Not only that, but the stipulation going into the match is that Lex Luger can never again challenge for the WWF Championship if he does not win the title from Yokozuna. Well, he did not win the title from Yokozuna. Now, the way around that was you have him win the Royal Rumble, which he did. He co-won the Royal Rumble with Bret Hart. That's how he got a title match at WrestleMania the following year. So in this case, you got this contract that now they're doing the gimmick with the Casino Gauntlet. You win the contract. You got a guaranteed title match. You can't cash in like Money in the Bank now. You got to give at least a week's notice. But that would be the way around it. Like, there are ways around the stipulation. It is not a foregone conclusion that, oh, this means MJF is losing his title at Revolution. No, he's not. I don't see that happening. But really what the story here should have been, and MJF brought this up in his promo, they had 2 matches last year. MJF lost both of those matches. He could not beat Hangman, and it drives him absolutely nuts. And that's the story. That even though he's the champion, he's coming into this match of Revolution with something to prove because he's got 2 losses that he can't shake. He has to beat this man. He knows he can beat this man. He's the one guy he could not conquer. To me, that was story enough. But they wanted to have a big hook for this match. But to go back to what I talked about before with Kenny and Swerve, like, who's one guy that you would think would have a problem with what Swerve did to Kenny Omega? Hangman Page. Now, if Hangman wins the title, Hangman defending against Swerve at Dynasty, that's a very appealing main event. But I just think it would be crazy to get the belt off MJF right now on the run that he's on, and he's still early on into this run. More likely, I think, is that we see Swerve costing Hangman a win against MJF. Because if his goal is to get back the championship, he's clearing the deck. He already took Kenny Omega out of the picture. And he's got to make sure that Hangman doesn't win that belt back before he does. That's a lot more likely to me. And yes, I mean, that would then set up a battle between 2 heels with MJF and Swerve. But it's not like it can't be done. And it's a match we still have never gotten one-on-one. It's actually a fresh match. We still haven't gotten MJF and Swerve one-on-one. I mean, some people might have said the same thing about MJF and Andrade. They wanted Andrade to beat Hangman in Australia. And they wanted him to get the shot at Revolution. And they're still teasing it. It was wild for me to see footage on Collision last night from backstage at the House of Glory show with MJF searching for Andrade. After Andrade came out during MJF's title defense against Zilla Fatu, he ran down the ramp during the match. MJF was about to use the Big Burberry belt as a weapon. And Andrade ran down and just grabbed it. He snatched it right away from him. And then he passed the belt to Zilla for Zilla to use as a weapon. But they're airing this on Collision last night, and they shot it was funny because I went to go, when the show was over, I went to go find MJF, and I saw him like storming down the stairs, and I couldn't imagine what was going on here, and I guess he was going to confront Andrade, so I kind of held back here. But he goes down the stairs, and Andrade is in the dressing room there, and they're cutting promos on each other backstage at the NYC Arena. And this is what aired on TNT last night, so that was wild to see. But Andrade said, I still have my sights set on that title. And I said this on the Uncrowned Wrestling show on Tuesday, and I mentioned it on TNT as well. That should be the Grand Slam Mexico match in a few months, because I know they're planning on going back to Arena Mexico. I presume that would be in June. That's what they did last year. If they're going back to Arena Mexico, and they're doing a big show down there, and assuming MJF is still the champion, that is the best place to be doing that match, in my opinion, not Revolution. So I like that they have different options here for where to go with all of this coming out of that pay-per-view. Is the plan to do MJF and Kenny at Double or Nothing? Or is Kenny the longer-term plan for All In Wembley, in case Will Ospreay is not cleared in time to take part in the Owen for a shot at the title? We're seeing these like weekly Will Ospreay vignettes, which I don't know that they would be running them unless they had a sense that he's going to be back soon. But it still seems kind of early to me. So I don't know. I mean, if they're planning something big for him at All In, then I would hope and assume they have some sense that he's going to be medically cleared a lot sooner than that. Because the Owen, I'm trying to think, when did the Owen start last year? All In last year was in July. This year it's in August. So the Owen would have started in May, right? Late May, early June. So the Owen probably this year wouldn't be starting until mid to late June. So I mean, there's time. There's time if you want Ospreay back to be in the Owen.